Why? Because all other items were positive. You could capture it as it is. So if I put in a 2 there, you will capture me as a 2. But if I put in a 4 here, you will convert that. Remember that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 point scale? You will convert that because it's a negative question. It's an odd question. When you capture it, you won't capture it as a 4. It's a reverse. It's a negative question. It's asked in a different way from all the others. You will instead capture it as a 2. Now, why I say you need negative questions is because you need to force reading, concentration, thinking, right? But don't have too many, because how many scales are you going to turn during the point of capturing? And if you forget to turn a scale, it's going to affect your means, your analysis completely. So yes, you need sequencing of a mix of positive and negative, but don't have too many odd questions, just enough to ensure that the person stops, sees that the question is different, and then responds. Okay? Too many odd questions might mean that you're going to have to think a lot while capturing, or you've got to concentrate a lot while capturing, and that can be a big schlep if you forget to turn a scale. All right. Now, sequencing doesn't end there. You've got to also sequence your questions using a funnel approach. A funnel looks like that. Again, not very good drawing from my side, but that's what a funnel is. Where at the top, the starting point of your questionnaire, you'll ask easy questions. And as you progress, you go on to more difficult, not really difficult, but thought-provoking. Okay? You'll also ask general questions and then become more specific. Of course, that helps to make it easy to more thought-provoking. The reason why you do this is turn it the other way. Put a difficult, specific question at the top of your questionnaire. You'll have more turn-downs. More people will say, this is not what I want to do, right? And you're not going to get your questionnaire filled in. You'll have a smaller response rate. You really don't want that, okay? First encourage them, oh, this is easy to fill. And as they go on, okay, I'm thinking a little bit more, they're not going to realize it because you have created a gradual progression, okay? So it's very important to use the funnel approach. The funnel approach is going to help you to secure a response rate, to ease the person into the questionnaire. And of course, once a person has done easy questions and they've come kind of halfway through, then they can say, okay, I'm almost there, let me just stick with it, bear with it, and you get a completed questionnaire in the end. All right? So remember, when we talk sequencing, we talk two things. Sequencing your positively and negatively worded questions to have a mix, just to make sure that people think first before responding, and sequencing in terms of the funnel approach. Ask easy to more specific, more difficult questions. The last in the principles of wording is classification data of personal information. This is biographical data, right, about the respondent. Now the one big no-no is don't ask for name. You don't need the name. What do you need the name for? You are doing aggregate analysis. You really don't need the name. And as soon as you ask for name, people are not going to respond because they're going to think, you're going to take my questionnaire and go give it to my boss. And that's it. That questionnaire is going to be incorrectly filled, biasly filled, or thrown away. So ensure that you don't ask for name. Also, this is a point where you can ask for everything. Gender, marital status, income, age, which department you work in, how many children you have, how long you've been working in the organization, which branch you work in, and the list can go on. But what is that doing? It's making your questionnaire too long and irrelevant. Don't choose your biographical data endlessly to say, hey, I tapped into this, I tapped into that, I even looked at that, and I looked at that. How much of analysis paralysis are you recreating? You may be tapping into variables that are irrelevant to your study. You need to come back to that conceptualization. During your reading, what was critically influencing the impact of pay promotion, working conditions, levels of job satisfaction different than females? Did you find that? Did you find that age was an influencing factor? Did you find that how long a person worked in the organization was influencing them? So, I'm saying go back to your conceptualization. Remember what were the critical biographical variables that you need and ask those only. Don't ask everything. It creates a whole lot of vagueness, cloudiness in terms of your analysis, because you might be analyzing things that are irrelevant to the conceptualization and the context of your study. Ensure that your biographical variables are the few most appropriate ones. So you've got to conceptualize, prioritize, and include those. Don't include everything, okay? You wouldn't be criticized too. An external examiner can very well say, look, I mean, the student has included just about everything, okay? So don't include too many biographical variables. The other question is, how do you include biographical variables, okay? There's a very particular way that you've got to include biographical variables, because if you include it in just by asking it, you may not get the right answer, or it might be in a way that is too personal to respond. For example, do not do this. Do not write income and expect someone to put in the income. Firstly, it's personal. Secondly, they're not going to tell you exactly how much they earn, okay? There is really no need to ask for income in many studies. Many studies tend to put it in when it's really not justifiable. If you're infringing into personal information like this, you're going to have a serious need for putting it in there, right? Maybe yes, if you're looking at the BOP market, the bottom of the pyramid, the poorest of the poor who earn less than $2 per day and are struggling with poverty and struggling for survival, and you need to know where in the band they fall, because you need to know what is the purchasing ability, you'd be able to justify it. But in any other study, to ask income is certainly not on. So if in a study where you really have to ask it, never provide that line. Always provide a range. And make sure that the range is applicable to your target market. Okay? If you're looking at BOP consumers, you're not going to say 0 to 10,000 rands a month. They're not going to be BOP in the first place, bottom of the pyramid, poverty stricken in the first place, and then your entire population of sample of 400 may all fall in that bracket. Okay, so what have you done? You didn't create the range correctly. You got to, if you have to include income, you've got to make sure that the range you create matches your target market. If they are poorer people, you got to create the range in that way. Maybe 0 to 500 rands. Maybe 501 rands to 1,000 rands, 1,001 rands to 1,500, and so forth. Now you can tell that it's appropriate for a BOP consumer. On the other hand, you can't say your target market is CEOs. I'm not sure what you're studying about them, that you need the income, and use this range. So the idea is clear. Make sure that if you have to use a variable, a dimension, you've got it in a scale, or you've got it into categories that is suited. That I need to bring your attention to.
Just say if you rename monthly or annually.
Yeah, you've got to specify.
Somebody might think
it's the whole years.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you've got to specify. Even with years, I'm coming to that one, right? I'm just lazy to type the whole thing out. Write the whole thing out, but I think I must. Even with age, don't do that. People are not going to fill it in, especially the guys. Okay? We're going to be honest as females, we're going to put our age in, but the guys are never going to respond, okay? So, alright, I'm joking. When it comes to age, don't do this. You're not going to get an answer. You take your target market. If the people in employment unemployed, then they're likely to be from 20 to 29, 30 to 39. It depends again on which market you are tapping into. And yes, as Sue said, you've got to specify whether you're looking at months or years. This time I'll write it for. Okay? And yes, take your target market into account. If you look at midlife crisis, you're not going to put in that row. Okay? They're not midlife. All right. So make sure that your categories match. You're always going to ensure that you have some kind of coding so that people just simply have to respond. Now you're more likely to get an answer here because instead of a person saying, I'm 39 years old, it's easier to put a cross between 30 to 39. Why? It makes me 9 years younger. Okay? The perception changes. So it's easier, rather than to have this, to collect your biographical data in that way. You will get a response, as opposed to the open-ended style, where you're not going to get the response.
Professor, you're going to discuss this later, but are you allowed to have different ranges, like 30 to 39, 40 to 45,
No.
46 to 49?
Your range, thanks for bringing up, very relevant question. Your range must always be equal. Otherwise, you're bringing in a bias into it. You're allowing already one range, one category, to accommodate more people than others. Okay? That is now bringing in a bias into your own study by keeping your ranges different. So always make sure that your ranges are equivalent. But coming back to that, Sue, it also has to be tied up with your organization. Okay? If you find that your study is taking place in an organization and you're focusing on higher level people who've been in the organization long, who are older, much older, you're going to know from their personnel reports where your people are generally sitting, and you may want to then not make one range bigger than the other, but drop the range. Maybe you want to say that, okay, you look at older people, 40 to 45 rather than 49, because now you've got a smaller bracket to look at. So you want to break it into smaller ranges. Question?
Mine was sort of, you semi-answered it there. I deal with demographics where the low end of the scale, the 20 to 29 category doesn't have many respondents, but the 40 to 60 is quite congested. So could I not do a 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 45, 46 to 50, 51 to 55, whatever?
Okay, you're actually going to still bring in bias. You rather keep your range consistent and know that you're going to have smaller categories in your, smaller frequencies in your first two categories, right? Now what you can do at that point in time, you see, once you put it all together, this is the reason why we say in your questionnaire, make sure you divide it properly from the beginning. Once you put it all together, suppose you said, I want to make it 20 to 29 as opposed to 40 to 45. Later, when you get your analysis, surprisingly, there's something intriguing between the 20 to 29. But now you've affected your results. You don't know whether that intriguing result is between the 20 to 25s or the 25 to 29s. You've got a problem now because you don't know where they fall. But had you done it 20 to 25, 26 to 29, whatever, then now you know this is the category where a problem is, I need to investigate further. Yet, if you put it 20 to 29, you've already lump summed them. However, if you had 20 to 25, 25 to 29, and you say, oh, you know that cell is coming out with one person and one person, and it's really now going to affect my ANOVA results because the cell is less than 5, right? One person and one person is making 2. So that's going to affect your results in terms of interpretation. At that point, it's wiser to say, let group 20 to 29, 30 to 39 be combined, or 20 to 25, 26 to 29 be combined. So now, because of results starting to prove insignificant, you're joining it then. It's safer to join in, because if you put in 1, you can't separate thereafter. Okay? That answers your question there? Okay, so that's the issue of age. You've got to provide ranges, and you've got to provide ranges or categories that is suitable for your market. So he might use age, but define differently because he's looking at the older generation or people who are mentors in the organization and likely to be middle and above. Okay? She might be looking at millennials, people who are joining into the organization. They are young people, they just finished the degrees, they think they're going to conquer the world, and they join into the market. Now she's not going to start from 40 to 45 or even include them. Okay? She's going to start with the younger people. So choose your categories that is suitable for your study. Now, the contentious issue when it comes to this last aspect of questionnaire design, and that contentious issue is where does it come in your questionnaire? Beginning or end? And researchers fight over this. Many researchers feel, no, don't put it at the beginning. Let them fill in the questionnaire and commit the details in the end, because they feel that it will be more genuine. That's one view. There is the other school of thought that feels that, hey, that should go at the beginning, because once they've committed their biographical details, they will fill in the rest of the questionnaire. Now, I have tried it with my students to see what works, more like an experiment, and I can sincerely tell you that putting it at the beginning works. Why? It even, how did I get to that? 1 second. It even helps you with the funnel approach. How hard is it to know your age, your gender, and so forth? Okay? It's very easy. So, putting it at the beginning helps you to get this flow of easy to more difficult, general to more specific. So, I found that response rates are better, people feel more committed. They, well, for us it seems to work to put it at the beginning. I think you're not going to get the opportunity to trial and error because you need to do your study. So perhaps put it at the beginning. We find that it's much better. Those are principles of wording, but they do not stand alone. Principles of wording tie up very much with principles of measurement. And it is very important for us to ensure that we constantly tie the two, because a few questions that were asked happen when those two don't talk to each other. They're not tied properly. So as much as you may have your wording, your items, everything well thought out, it is very important for you to tie it very closely with the principles of measurement. And the first principle of measurement relates to categorization. Now let's take this example that we already have on the board. Our impact of or influence of independent variables, pay, promotion, opportunities, and working conditions on job satisfaction as our key primary concern. That's our dependent variable. That is how we have conceptualized our study. And of course, we might have looked at particular biographical variables, maybe gender, maybe age, maybe tenure, meaning how long you've been in the organization. Okay? It's now a point of categorization. What does this mean? Just to put it up pictorially, so that's the influence of pay, promotion, opportunities, and working conditions on job satisfaction. That's our theoretical framework, and that is what we are happy with for the context in which we're going to study it. Okay? But now, for any one of those pairs of variables, let's just take one pair. The influence of pay on job satisfaction. You cannot ask one question. When you ask one question, it might be the wrong one. It might not tap sufficiently into the influence of pay of job satisfaction. To give you an example, suppose I was brought here to do that previous study on whether US masters and doctoral students like to study at UKZN. And I asked you just one question. Do you like studying at UKZN? And I used a dichotomous scale of yes, no, right? I go back and I tell Professor MacArthur I did the study, and 70% said that, I shouldn't be saying this, 30% said that they don't Sanjana, why? And I'll tell him, oh, I don't know. I don't know why. I didn't ask. Okay, I'll go back. Now you don't have the liberty of, okay, I'll go back. Okay? That means you've got to make sure here that you don't just ask one question that says very little for you to report, analyze, and conclude. Okay? Each of those pairs being tested should have a minimum of 5 items in a questionnaire. A minimum of 5 absolutely pertinent items that tap into the dimensions of why. So if I'm looking at, do you like studying at UKZN? Do you like the facilities? Do you like the library? Do you like the cafeteria? Do you like the lecturing style? And then I can go back to Professor MacArthur and say, yes, 70% like studying, and do you know what? They actually enjoy the lecturing style. Or they're here because they feel the facilities are good. So I'm giving him more to work with. I'm telling him what's working. I'd also be able to say, but you know what? 30% said they don't like studying here. They weren't happy with. So now I'm providing a better answer than, 70% want to study, 30% don't want to study in both. That's it. No further analysis, no deeper recommendations, no conclusions, nothing at all. So, by trial and error, not mine, research, a minimum of 5 questions that are totally relevant really taps into the items. So if you had to put everything we're talking about into a spreadsheet, you would find that if you go with a minimum of 5, for a questionnaire like this, you'll have 5 for pay and job satisfaction, 5 for promotion and job satisfaction, 5 for working conditions and job satisfaction, and you would want to tap into job satisfaction as a dependent variable itself. So that theoretical framework will have a minimum of 20 items. 5 for pay, 5 for promotion, 5 for working conditions, and maybe 5 for job satisfaction in itself if you want to see where the level of job satisfaction is. So 20. Does that mean now you've got some burning issues to tap into and you can't because you finished your 5 items? No. It's a minimum of 5. So you can go more. But don't go too much more and start putting irrelevant questions because that's going to make your questionnaire too long. Okay? So try and keep it to the exact amount that you need to tap the various aspects or elements of your construct. Don't go too many. Alright? Now what does then categorization mean? Categorization means, when you do your spreadsheet, you're collecting your information on gender, age, whatever.